welcome to the 56th episode of the Junkie podcast. My name is Amber. I am your host. This is my podcast about all my yarny crafts. If this is your first time joining me, thanks so much for checking me out. If you're a returning viewer, you'll know that I'm coming to you from my home in Texas, where I live with my 2 daughters, my husband, and our 3 dogs. My girls actually just had spring break last week. I tried to record this a bit earlier in the week. It's March 23rd, and it's been about 2 weeks since I've last sat down and talked with you. But, you know, life, and it's been crazy because the girls having spring break, and we're just now getting back into everything almost a week after they've been back in school. So I have quite a bit to show you guys, as I usually do when it's been a while. I'll jump right into the nitty goodness. I have some finished objects, a couple of hose, and some whips. So, and some acquisitions, but I promise I didn't break my yarn diet. I will get started with my finished objects first, as one does. I was really inspired recently. I've seen a lot of hoops, like yarn hoops like this. So I think I saw my first one at Hobby Lobby, and I took a photo of it, and I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing, but there's no way I'm going to spend $30 on it when I can make it myself, like a crafter does. And then I saw a few at the festival we went to recently. We went to the Irish Festival, and there was a crochet person's booth, like there usually is at those types of events. And she had some really gorgeous wall hangings, all made with all kinds of different materials. She had some hoop frame ones, and then she had some antlers, which I've been really wanting to learn to shed hunt. So if you don't know what shed hunting is, it's basically when you go hiking after the deer, whatever horned animal, has shed its antlers, and you just look for antlers. I've read that it can be tricky, and in my area it probably really would be because of where the deer are. It's pretty dense, and it's like low trees, cedars and mesquite. They're all low-hanging trees, and it's kind of just difficult to walk in those areas where deer are scratching their heads to get their sheds off. Anyway, the lady did it with sheds. It was amazing. I'm rambling about deer now. But so I was inspired by those, and I wanted to make one of these. So I hopped on Ravelry, and I thought the best bet would be to do a doily in the center. And there's a pattern, and I have it pulled up here. It's called Doily Hoops by A La Sasha, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry. And I didn't get to do all of the rounds because I used quite a small hoop and quite a thicker yarn. I think she actually used like thread even, which I do have some crochet thread, but that's definitely not what I used. This is some deep stash. Lost the ball band too eons ago. Crazy fun yarn that you just buy on a whim, because I think I had originally intended it to be like a doll hair. This actually all came in the same ball, if you could believe it. The glitter, the fur, the green yarn, it's all the same ball. I had originally intended it to be doll's hair, probably. And then I just added a chicken feather. We own chickens, and they molt quite a bit in the summer, in the fall leading into winter, and then winter leading into spring. They always kind of lose some of their feathers and molt. So I was really excited to have that done, and it didn't take me any time at all. I was like, did you guys see where I put that pin? I think I sat down and had this done in about an hour total. So it was quite enjoyable to work on. And I joked with my husband that I made it for him, and he was just like, thanks. I don't think he really appreciated it. And while it is really cute, I would like to make some in more like neutral color palette as wall hangings, as the pattern intended, really. I think they're really sweet and simple, and even great swap or gift ideas for knitty friends. Another finished object I have, actually 2 finished objects, are some ornaments for my ornament along. So Molly of A Homespun House and Amber of Maker's Haven are co-hosting a year-long make-along for ornaments. You can crochet, knit, sew, They just want you to make ornaments for your Christmas tree or to hang at Christmas time if you don't celebrate Christmas. But I originally made the snowflake in January. So that's my first ornament, and I've since made 2 more. So I meant to make this in February, but you know, life. And I finally made it this past week or so. Valentine's Day is very, very dear to me. It's my big brother's birthday, and I just have always loved February and Valentine's Day. And so I definitely wanted to make a heart to represent February. I used some leftover hedgehog fibers yarn in colorway Pinky Swear. This is actually leftover from Prudence's sweater that I knit her last year, the Little Honey. So that's extra special because she knows that it's her sweater's yarn, and this will be an ornament that we hang on the tree each year. And the girls are like loving this little idea of me making ornaments. And so I mentioned it was their spring break this past week, and we have land out in East Texas. So where we live is about 2 hours west of Dallas, out in the middle of nowhere. And we have land 2 hours east of Dallas, again, out in the middle of nowhere. I love rural life. I grew up in the city, so I mean, city life can be great, but I wanted my kids to know animals and chickens and as many dogs as you want, etc. But the girls had never been to the land in East Texas. My husband and I went out there when we were first looking for property, and then we bought it because we fell in love because it's amazing out there. I actually probably put a couple of videos in the intro, and I'll do some more at the end too. I try to do videos, but I'm not great at the whole vlog thing, so I don't know what to say. I always just like scan the environment with my camera. The whole point of that is the girls have never been there. My husband and I have only been there a handful of times ourselves, and it's about 10 acres, so it's just like covered in pine trees. Where we live currently is pretty sparse. Again, I mentioned cedar and mesquite trees are plentiful, but again, it's patchy. Whereas East Texas, it's called the Piney Woods for a reason. It's beautiful out there, and our land is just covered in 100-foot trees, and the girls had a blast. So we went camping out there for a few days and hiked all over our property, and we found so many varieties of mushrooms. And I love mushrooms. I love looking at them and inspecting them, and the girls do too. And my husband was even a bit more adventurous and picked several, and I encourage the girls not to do that, and I don't want to touch them because I need a book. If you're a mushroom person, recommend a book to me. I think that I'm just going to get like online and see about specifically East Texas mushrooms because, again, that's where the land is. All that to say, that whole entire story about hiking in East Texas inspired me to come home and knit a mushroom for our Christmas tree. And the girls are so excited. Like, when they came home from school and saw this on Monday, they were like, oh my gosh, you knit a mushroom that looks just like some of the ones we found. And it does. I was really quite pleased to find this yarn in my stash from one of those swapless swaps that you do. This one was through Spicy Homemakers podcast, I want to say, last year. The Sweet Life, and the colorway is Horned Frogs, which I think is really interesting because TCU is like literally an hour away. My daughter actually went to summer camp there 2 summers ago. TCU is Texas Christian University, if you didn't know that, and their mascot is the Horned Frogs, and that is the color of Horned Frogs. I'm not sure what the picture influence was, because that's what all of these were based off of, is a picture that you took. But I love that one. I love that it matched the mushrooms that we found, and I'll try to insert a couple of photos if I can figure out how to do that. Or you can just follow me on Instagram. I don't think I mentioned that, _yarn junkie. Never mentioned that. And then there's the gills, which is just done with some Madelinetosh antler I had in the stash. But I love this little guy. And I've talked about this teeny little mushroom enough, but I have it. So it is a free pattern, and I do have it pulled up by Abby Crokin, Knitted Shrooms on Ravelry. And I really enjoyed it, except the cast on is a bit fiddly. So it has you cast on 6 stitches on one needle and then separate them between 3 needles. And at first I had these on my carbons. The needles just fell out of my stitches. And I was like, that's not gonna work. So I put them on my wooden needles. They saved the day. My little royals. I love these so much for so many different things. And I knit this, and they were really quite enjoyable because they grip the stitches just right to where they just wouldn't slide right off. So it has you knit on 6 stitches and then increase by knitting through the front and back loop. And again, free pattern, so I'm not giving anything away. But it's kind of fiddly until you get the stem done, and then you're just like, oh my gosh, it's already knit. So when I was doing the stem, before I started it, I thought I wanted a whole bowl of mushrooms. When I started the stem, I was like, there's no freaking way I will knit one more of these. This is ridiculous. By the time I got to the middle of it, I was like, this is fine. I definitely want a bowl of these. So I'll probably knit a bowl of these at some point. It's not going to be today or tomorrow, but maybe Sunday. And again, I have all of my little ornaments that I've been knitting or crocheting in this little box, and I'm keeping them all in here until Christmas. And this is extra special because I did Molly's Yuletide swap 2 years ago, and Robin was my partner, and she watches my podcast now. So hi, Robin. She sent me this box, a little collection of boxes actually, but this was the biggest one. And it's so nice to be able to have a use for it, and just to have that little sweet memory, and to have all my little cozy ornaments that are going to be memories of the year that my girls and I spend together. So that's so exciting. Some more finished objects I have. And this beautiful bag. This is by Suburban Stitcher. She did a pre-order for these bags last year, and I talked about our drive to East Texas is quite long, but we got to see all the beautiful wildflowers growing on the highway. If you didn't know, bluebonnets are the state flower of Texas. So they're so special. They're so special. I love seeing the wildflowers grow in spring. So I crocheted 2 of these actually. Bear with me, I lost my hook. I found it. I crocheted 2 of these little sunflower coasters. This is the second one. This one's for a swap, and I already gave one away for a swap. And it's just out of some cotton yarn that I, again, had in the stash that I've been trying to use up. I just think I got it from Hobby Lobby or Michael's. I say one of those 2 places because Walmart's notorious for not really having very many solid colors. But I think I always find my solid colors like at maybe even Joann's for the cotton yarn. But this is just a simple sunflower that I don't even have a pattern for. I just, made it up. You increase around in a spiral, and then I just did a little triple crochet or double crochet 3 times, and then a treble, and then a double crochet 3 times, single crochet around. If you really wanted to know, I could totally write you down the pattern for this. I don't mind at all. It was very, very easy. I think a beginner could do it, but it was just something quick and fun to be able to use up some stash and give something extra nice in a swap. And I crocheted this using my wooden Caspian hook. This is from Knit Picks. I really love this. I bought this on a whim, and it's my only one of that particular brand, and I definitely want the whole set of these Caspian crochet hooks. I think this is a size H, and I love it. I love the color, I love the smoothness, I love the head. It makes me so happy to work with this. So that is that project. I've also been working on quite a few dishcloths. So Atrella asked me to knit her a dishcloth because we use them outside a lot for the chicken coop chores, and then I use them inside for my dishes and just cleaning in general. I love a knitted dishcloth. I feel like the ridges are just so great for cleaning, and there's dog hair on everything. So I was inspired also by Kay. I think Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady has been knitting a lot of dishcloths. I think she was inspired by Amber. I think it's so nice how we all just play off of one another and work on projects collectively but separately because we're separated by so many states. But this is the leaf dishcloth. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. This was the garter version. I definitely want to try the stockinette version, but you see how it kind of bows in and it has this like weird rid bump in the middle of it? I mean, I knit it per pattern, but I just found that kind of weird. It's like a leaf, so you cup it in your hand and it's not that weird, but I don't know, it just doesn't lay flat, and maybe it would after I got it wet. I haven't woven in the ends on these, but I've knit these, and then I gave one away in a swap, and I also have one at the sink that I've been using. And I started knitting all of those on my new Likey needles. So I had a pair of needles that I got right around Christmas time, the Addie olive wood needles. I think I showed them on a podcast, and I decided I really didn't like them. And my local yarn store, West 7th Wool, has a really good return policy on things you don't like. And so I swapped them out for these Likey needles. I think that's how you say that, Lykke, driftwood needles. And they're wooden needles. And so I got straights because I love straights for dishcloths, 10-inch, and they're a size 8 or 5.00 millimeter. And all the dishcloths that I've shown you and the ones that I haven't, that I've already gone away to live in their homes, were knit on these. And I love them so, so, so much. They're so smooth and so enjoyable to work with, and they just make me so happy. And I was going to say something else about them, but my mind just totally went blank. I have no idea. Oh, I had to force myself to put them away to work on the projects that need progress, my big projects. So that's why that one started and I did not finish it. I was like, no more dishcloths. You have been knitting dishcloths like a mad person. And I'll tuck that back in there. But I do enjoy them if you have Likey needles. Oh, that's what I was going to say also about them. I want the set. My yarn store has the set for sale for I think like 120 something. They do phone orders, by the way, West 7th Wool. And a couple of mine at Night Buddies have gotten the sets. And of course, fear of missing out, I need it. No, I don't. I have plenty of needles. But I have some hose, so I'm going to reset here and I'll be right back to show you those. Okay, so I've been working on getting some socks finished up because I cast them on all the time and it seems like I never finish any. So I showed you guys this as a whip last time, and this was my Mercury socks by Kim Drotor. Everyone is knitting the Mercury socks right now. I'm sure you know who they're by. Yeah, Drotor. And I'm knitting these using Full and Vine yarn in colorway Succulents, and it is her 80/20 Superwash Blue Face Luster in nylon. And I started out with 400 yards, but I did wind some off for heels and toes of other socks. So when the pattern told me to knit so many repeats for my size that I was knitting, I thought about knitting a couple of repeats longer because I do have a long foot and a skinny calf. But I decided against it because I wasn't really sure how much yarn I would have left. And I'm glad about that because my sock weighs 35 grams and I had 43 grams left of yarn. So had I knit just a few more repeats, I fear that I wouldn't have had enough for both socks. And I was recently watching Jilly of Knitting Broomstick talk about how she thinks she has the wrong size sock blockers. I think I have the same problem, Jilly. So I wear a women's size 10 shoe. Sorry, I'm going to have to take a drink. I have like a tickle in my throat. It's the afternoon, so I'm drinking water. I drink a lot of coffee in the morning and I try to drink water all afternoon, well, into the night, because Sometimes I'll have a soda with popcorn at night, which I know is terrible, but usually it's just water other than that. So my sock blockers don't really fit, even though I wear a women's size 10. I bought a large size sock blocker, and they always just kind of pucker on the bottom, which is fine. I mean, I really don't mind. I only have sock blockers to show you guys. Actually, my mom bought me these for my birthday the year that she passed away. So they're very special to me at this point. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about these because I'm going to start crying. But I do love them, and I find they're cute, whether they're useful or not. But the other half object that I had to cast on another sock. I don't know why. I have a vanilla sock that I'm working on. I didn't have to worry about, only having a lace sock because I have another sock. But I wanted to cast on some fade yarn because my fade was just taking forever. I was not seeing any progress on it, and I was just fed up. So I cast on a Rose City roller using some of the yarns I used in my fade. So this is my B yarn, which is the Bohemia fibers. In that swap that I showed you, the knit mushroom, we actually, I got a whole skein of my colorway, which was the Yarn Junkie Custom. So the picture that I took was of the sunset on the lake, and that's what she came up with. And there's my dog barking. Sorry about that interruption. I was talking about my Bohemia fiber yarn. She dyed this based on a photo that I took. And the heel yarn is some that I got in the Tim Burton swap that I did. Molly of a Homespun House did a yarn club subscription where she based everything off of a Tim Burton film. So this was the Alice Falls Down the Rabbit Hole colorway and a plump merino, 80%, 20% superwash merino nylon, and that's the same thing this is. And then my gold toe is actually an MCN base Madlintosh colorway Daffodil, and that's my color A. So this is A, B, and C in my fade. And the heel that I used on my roller this time, the Rose City roller is a free pattern on Ravelry by Myra Briner. I've knit this pattern a dozen times. I seriously think we have 6 pairs of rollers at least in this family. This is my 4th pair. I've knit her jelly roll pattern. I love her socks, and I love the fit of these. But I knit these on a size 1, and the heel, that's what I was going to say. The heel that I used is actually the Hermione's Everyday pattern heel, the Eye of Partridge heel, which you can't really see it, but I like it all the same. You can kind of there. So it just offsets where it looks like diamonds. I really like that heel pattern. So I really love these socks. I love the fit of these socks. It's one of my favorite patterns for sure. And I'll knit many, many more a pair. So those are 2 hose. I have leftovers on this written down. My yarn weighed 54 grams for my main color. My sock is 26 grams total. And I didn't weigh these, but that is that sock. I knit my Mercury sock on the Knit Pro Zings, and then this sock I cast on with DPNs, but then I knit the heel flap with DPNs because I just can't do that on tiny circulars. I don't know how people do that. And then I switched to 9-inch circulars to knit the foot. And we were at the museum for spring break. I took my daughters to the science museum, and I knit the foot 2 inches too long and had to sit there and rip back 2 inches of knitting at the museum. And then I quickly popped in the toe, and I was done by the time they were done playing, which was nice. And I had that chilling in my Nomadic Yarn Cube while we were at the museum, but there's another project in here now that I'll show you in a minute. So those are my hoes. I have a woe after my hoe. So my woe is I am going to frog my Dale socks. So this is the Homespun House Dale pattern. And I really love these Fair Isle socks. No, I don't love knitting Fair Isle, but I love the look of these socks, and I really wanted this pair of socks. But I chose a poor yarn to knit these in, and I didn't want to continue with these only to have a finished object that I was just unhappy with. So if you can see how fuzzy that is, the yarn is just very, very lightly twisted, and I feel like it would have fared better with a heavier twist, a higher twist yarn. I feel like it's just going to overall mute those stitches over time. You know, the furrier it gets, the more it's going to hide those Fair Isle stitches that I've worked so hard to produce. So I've decided to scrap these socks and knit something else that will make me happy. And I really do love this pattern. I will return to this pattern when I have a better yarn for it. I do think overall my floats were so nice and even. And I think that I was doing such a wonderful job. I was carrying my yarn really well. Everything's really stretchy. I was making sure of all of that because it's a sock. I really wanted to be sure my Fair Isle was nice and stretchy. But overall, I just feel like the yarn was a very poor choice. The main color that I'm using is this Knit Picks Stroll Fingering. And I'm not knocking Knit Picks yarn. I've had other Knit Picks yarn that I've liked. I just don't like the Stroll Fingering. I think I bought a few skeins of this, and 3 to be exact, and I just don't appreciate that yarn. So if you like it, to do for you, but I don't. So, but I did restart another sock with the red color. I really love that. Beautiful color. And I didn't want it to go to waste. And so I quickly cast on. I was inspired. I saw a couple people knitting a few different varieties of this sock on my Instagram for Valentine's Day. And so I searched around on Ravelry and I found Pieces of My Heart by DK Einer. It's a free Ravelry download. I have a project page on it, I think. Don't quote me on that, I might not. And it's a really pretty, let me get one of my sock blockers. It's a really pretty lace pattern that creates a heart, or a pair of hearts down your leg. And this yarn, while beautiful, is not going to show up on the camera as good. I feel like you can't really see the design that well, but once it blocks out, I think that it will be really good. Oh, there we go. So it's just 2 little hearts on one side, and then the same on the other side, 2 little hearts. Can you see them? So I really love this pattern. I cast these on using my size 1 DPNs, but it tells you to cast on a few more stitches. It's a free pattern, so I'm not giving anything away. It tells you to cast on 68 stitches, which my normal cast on is 64 or 60 stitches, so I thought that was a few more than I normally did, but I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe it just needs to be extra stretchy or something. But that was way too big on the ones. So I went down to a 0. I didn't want to mess with the math on the hearts of having to do fewer stitches because I definitely wanted hearts on both sides all the way down. I love hearts. I feel like hearts follow me around. I see them a lot everywhere. And if you don't know, my mom died of a heart attack. So I think of her a lot when I see hearts now. I saw hearts a lot before she passed, but even now I see them, I always think of her. So those are done, or those are cast on, and I've enjoyed working on those, but again, it's a lace pattern over 12 rows, and every other row you have a rest pattern, a lace pattern, a rest row, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's not that difficult. It just takes, again, I'm not going to be talking to my husband or chatting with my kids after school working on this sock. And I have it all tucked into my Maker's Haven project bag. And I was thinking about, because of the mushrooms and the hearts and the Harry Potter bag, my daughters and I on spring break just recently watched a couple of the Harry Potter movies, but the one that comes to mind is, I think, the 6th movie, where, you know, Hermione just wants, everyone is doing love potion spells to entice the fair sex or opposite sex, and I thought, how fun would it be to call these my love spell socks? Cheesy, whatever. Sure. So another work in progress that I have had going, and this has been kind of my travel sock after when we went camping. I only took 2 projects, this sock and my fade, because I said I'm going to get some work done on those dagnabbit. And so I took them in my little cube, and this is perfect because it hangs right on my hammock, and I can even work on these at night with my headlamp. I didn't. I was exhausted. But I can in theory, and it's there to comfort me. Do you ever do that? Do you ever bring yarn and know that you probably won't be able to work on something, or probably won't have the time or mental capacity to work on something, but just having the yarn there to hold makes you feel better? Is that just me? I hope not, because yarn does. It has that soothing effect on me where I just want to hold it, or it to be close to me, nearby, just in case. So I have put quite a bit of work into this sock. I think I was about here on y'all's last viewing, and I got this cute little bun from Candace over at Transitory, or Pin Feathers and Pearls podcast. Transitory is her Instagram handle. She sent me that in a swap last year, and she's doing the stripy socks cowl, which is kind of why I cast these on, to be able to join in on that, even though I don't think I'm going to finish them in time. I think her knit along ends at the end of March. So I have some time, but still. This is Bethany and I. She has been doing Afterthought Everything socks, and I was telling her how I was wanting to do, or she's been doing Afterthought heel socks, sorry. And I was telling her about how I wanted to do the Afterthought Everything sock, and she did too. And I said, would you like to cowl with me? She said yes. And so we're both co-hosting a knit along currently for the Afterthought Everything sock. So you can knit that pattern, which is a $2 pattern. I didn't pull that one up. You can knit the Susan B. Anderson Smooth Operator socks, which has an Afterthought heel. You can do any Afterthought heel pattern of your choosing. We just want you to #snip those socks cowl. So Bethany and I have been knitting along, and she's done quite a few pairs. I have not. This is my first true Afterthought heel sock. So I have not put in waste yarn. I started with my ribbing. I knit down. I popped in my stitch marker. That is exactly where I'm going to put my first heel. So the Afterthought Everything sock tells you to put in a stitch marker where you're going to put your heel, put in a stitch marker where you're going to put in your toe, and then knit a tube. You're knitting a tube all the way to the other end, to the other cuff. So I am on the second part of my sock. So this is technically a hoe. That's Lucy crying because she can't come in my room because I have the door shut, or it's like pushed close, and she can't lay right here by me. It's not sad. So my sock, I'm on the second sock currently, which this is totally fun, and I hope this is my new way of knitting socks. I did have these on Magic Loop, but for some reason Magic Loop was giving me a total headache with this yarn. This is Mustache Sheep yarn, and it's quite thin, so my cord just kept getting wrapped around my yarn. I have no idea why, but it was quite frustrating, so I switched them to the 9-inch circs. Now with the 9-inch circs, my gauge is looser. I didn't want to have to rip out the socks, but I was done knitting Magic Loop. I don't think it's for me. I have to talk about these right quick. So these are from my local yarn store with 7th Wool. They're little knit ends, you know, stitch protectors. They're little tulips. They're Tulip brand knit pokers. I freaking love them. They had pink and green. They're actually out of stock on these. I wanted to get them for some swaps, but she needs to get these back because I want some more too. But so my gauge being horribly loose with these 9-inch circs, I've been modifying how I knit. So every time I go around, I just kind of tug my finger up to tighten my gauge on that one stitch that I have on the needle. And it's actually helped, and my gauge is tighter. So I know Kay, again, hi Kay, if you're watching, of the Crazy Sock Lady, was talking about how her gauge is so much looser with the 9-inch circs. She was thinking about sizing down to a 0, which I love the fabric that I get with a 1 on Magic Loop, but not so much with the 9-inch circs. Now that I'm doing that little, I don't know if you can tell because it's such a small movement, but every time I just kind of kick my finger out, which yes, it's a hassle to have to remember to do that, but after a while you just kind of automatically start doing it, and it's tightened my gauge considerably. So I don't know if that's a good tip for any of you guys, but it has helped me, and since I've put these on a 9-inch circ, they flew. They really did fly. So I think I was about here on our camping trip, and I knit all of that. Just mostly on the drive, because again, I was pretty tired from hiking and stuff to knit. So those are again in my Nomadic yarn cube. I really love this project bag. I think it's the perfect travel size. I think it's perfect for when you're wanting to walk around somewhere and knit, especially on a 9-inch circular, because you just, so easy, so simple, small movements, and it's the perfect size. And I have a large hand, and my hand goes in there quite easily. So even if you quickly had to put it in your bag, it's not this bulky thing that you have to deal with. And the fabric's gorgeous. And she always has plenty of these in a wide variety of fabrics. So go check it out. The Nomadic Yarns Etsy shop. What else do I have? One more whip to show you guys. Yes. So my fade, I've been plugging away on this thing, and I swear it's going to be done at some point. I hope by the end of March. There's a couple of cows that I'd love to enter this into. I know that Amber of the Yarn Hoarder podcast is doing a multicolored shawl along of some sort. And then Kay, again, of the Crazy Sock Lady, is hosting a selfish cow that I think ends at the end of March. And so I really want to get this finished up. I have started to fade in my 6th color, and then as soon as I did, I was like, wah wah, because I kind of wish I would have swapped my 5th and 3rd color. So here is my 1st and 2nd color, and I feel like my 2nd color fades so well with my 5th color. Look at that. And then my 3rd color would have been better with my 6th color, which is this. Wah wah. You live, you learn. I loved it up to that point. I was like, this is my jam, I love it. And then I was still loving it, though less so, because it just felt like it was a lot of gray right there. If those two would have been swapped, I feel like it would have been perfect. But who's going to frog it and go back? I really did consider it for a second, to be honest. I was like, I could rip it back, but I'm not going to do that because that's crazy. So my 6th color is this gorgeous Once Upon a Corgi yarn in colorway Nia. And it has these green flakes and these purple flakes and these gray flakes, and I love it. I love it. And I can't wait until this thing is done. We're actually going into the Metroplex tomorrow night. My husband has a company dinner that we're going to. We're actually taking the kids to Great Wolf Lodge. My mother-in-law is going to meet us up there and hang out with them while we go to the dinner, and then we're going to hang out with them the next day at Great Wolf, and then go to REI and get some more camping stuff, because we need a few more things. And we have our dividend points from REI because we're members. So yay, REI! So that's my fade. I did do a lot of work on this because last week I was in, so y'all are a bit closer now, and there's a weird cord here because my tablet died, and I was in the middle of talking about my fade, or it didn't die, it just wouldn't let me record anymore because it was going to die. I guess I really don't have any more to say about this. I won't go over the colors again until I'm all done, because it's boring. But yeah, it's just not making very much progress for me. We are going into the Metroplex this weekend, so I'll be taking this along as my security blanket, as Michelle of the Naughty Knitwits podcast called it, because it is. It is totally a blanket. I lay it on my legs and work on it. Let me see. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. I love it. It's going to be so amazing. I'm so excited to have it finished. And it's all in my field bag by Fringe Supply Company. And at first, when I got this, I didn't really like it that much. I kind of felt I was ridiculous for buying it. But since I've stuffed a project in here, I always want to have a project in this bag. I really like the shape. I like the durability. It's perfect for me. Dog hair and camping and all. The handle's gotten really nice since I've been using it. And I want more. What can I say? It's a good bag. And the only reason I put it in here to begin with is because it was like the only project bag that I had that would hold 7 cakes of yarn. So something else that I've been meaning to talk about that I haven't because I'm the worsted, and I finally just brought yarn out so I would be forced to remember to talk about it. I've literally written it on the past 2 podcasts. I've had show notes. I don't have show notes today if you can't tell. And I've written it on both of those. Completely read over it or don't see it, I don't know. But Mina of the Knitting Expat has gifted me the collection of her New York sock pattern. It is a 7-month subscription, and she wanted me to gift you guys a subscription to the patterns as well. And so, again, I'm so sorry. It is already well underway. The first pattern was released at the beginning of March. It is now almost April. And the second pattern will be released, and it is a 7-month subscription, so you get a sock pattern each month, all based off of her inspiration in New York. So the first pattern is called Grand Central, I think. I have it opened here. Grand Central socks. And so a lot of people have been knitting them on Instagram again, and I've been totally inspired, and I've been wanting to cast some on, but I've been trying to be good and work on my fade so that can get off the needles. But this yarn really spoke to me about being cast on for the Grand Central stocks. Most of Mina's patterns are great for variegated yarn, self-striping yarn, tonal. They're just great for all of the yarn. And there's not a lot you can do with variegated besides vanilla, and even then, it's just not that exciting. But this particular pattern with its stitch definition just screamed these socks to me. I feel like it will pull out a lot of these different colors, and I'm really excited to cast these on. And I did find 2 minis in the stash. I went ahead and balled this one up, and they're both from the same mini skein set from Night Owl Fibers. This purple is Purple People Esters, and then the green is Gillyweed. And I thought that the green was definitely more green, but when I showed it to Atrella, she called it blue. And now seeing it on the screen, it does look more blue than green to me. So that's really interesting. But it's called Gillyweed, so I mean, what Potterhead wouldn't love this color? But I know it doesn't exactly go, but there is some flecks of a greeny, yellowy in there. And I don't think, these are each 20 grams. I don't know if it's enough for heels, toes, and cuffs for both pair. So I was thinking about doing heels or cuffs in the purple and then toes in the green, or alternating the cuffs between the 2 colors and alternating the toes between the 2 colors, kind of doing opposites. I'm not sure what I'll do yet. What do you think? If you know for a fact a 20 gram mini is enough for, my hair is like flying all over the place. All of the, I wouldn't even mind just doing cuffs and toes. I don't have to do heels. I wouldn't mind doing a very variegated heel. So let me know what you think. That is enough about that. As far as the giveaway goes, I will create a thread in the Yarn Junkie Ravelry group, the Yarn Junkie podcast Ravelry group. And if you would like to win the pattern, just go over there in the thread. The prompt will probably be, show me your favorite pair of socks you've ever knit, or tell me about them if you can't show me a picture, though I do love pictures. And I do ask that it be fair and this go to a sock knitter. If you're not a sock knitter, don't enter. If you've never knit socks but you really want to, sure, I guess you can go ahead and enter, but I would really like this to go to somebody who's going to utilize the patterns. I think it's a good collection. I think that having 7 new socks to knit is just so exciting, and I really want that to go to somebody who's going to use those. So that's all I ask. Now for my acquisitions. I do have some acquisitions, though I didn't break my yarn diet, as I said. I went to Knit Night a few weeks ago. I did buy something, and they had these wrist rules. So a friend of mine from Knit Night suggested to Amy that she get these in the shop, and she did, because Amy's awesome, and I had to get one. So I just took a rubber band off my wrist, so forgive the line. I've been wearing this nonstop for about 2 weeks. I take it off to sleep. I didn't when I was camping. When I was camping, I just left it on the whole time. I take it off to sleep, but that's it. Actually, I don't think that I wore it camping because I didn't want to risk losing it. But I really like it. I did wear it to the museum last week, and I forgot to bring a tape measure, as one sometimes does. You don't always remember to pop one in each project bag. And I was like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to measure this sock. And Trella was like, Mom, your bracelet is a ruler. It is amazing. And I think it's really well made. I don't think that it's going to last forever. I think that will eventually wear out. But I feel like it was worth the price. It's got centimeters on one side and inches on the other. It has scratched a little already because, again, I'm just a rough person. And, you know, it's warped a little to my wrist, which I like. It's softened up considerably since I've gotten it. I've had it 2 weeks, and it's really gotten quite neat. It was a little bit different of a color. It was a little bit lighter, so it's patinaed to my skin. I adore it. I think it's just really cool and useful too. So, but that's not yarn, so that's totally not cheating. And then also in doing this cowl with Bethany, I was chatting with her through Instagram like you do, and telling her how much I adored her yarn and how I would totally be buying it at every shop update, but again, self-imposed yarn diet. So she suggested we do a swap, a stash swap, and I said, oh, I would love to, that'd be so awesome. And I told her a couple of the yarn brands that I had, and you know, mentioned that I had a homespun house skein that I'd be willing to part with. And she jumped on that, and I asked her if she wanted to see a picture, and she didn't. She just wanted to be surprised, which I thought was cool. And actually, to speak about yarn clubs again, to touch on those just for a second, the homespun house skein that I swapped with Bethany was actually one from the yarn club, and I didn't love it. Like, you're not going to love everything from every yarn club. That's just fact. But if you're smart about who you buy from, or you know, you can luck out and somebody would want this highly sought after yarn that, you know, is exclusive to this club. So I felt good about buying Molly's yarn, of course, because I knew I could gift it in good faith or resell it for what it was worth, as opposed to being out the money on something that I didn't really like. So that worked out really well, because Bethany was overjoyed about the yarn, and she sent me one of her colorways. So she, again, is the dyer behind Woolberry Fiber Co. And I told her that there were like 3 colorways that I was dying to have. Just surprise me. Send me whichever one you think. So to tell a little bit of a story before I show it, I have this little Notions case. I have a little bit of a smaller one, and then this one is quite large, and it holds a lot of little stitch markers and stuff. But this is from Knitty by Nature. Melissa owns the shop Knitty by Nature and sells stitch markers. And she used to sell these. I don't think she does anymore, because Etsy said they're not handmade. which they're useful for handmade items. I don't really know the rules, all the rules, or what went behind why she doesn't sell these anymore. But she had gifted me this one, and Trella just loves this. Like, my 11-year-old always comments on it and talks about how cute it is. And she's like, now what is a macaroon again? Because I explained to her it's a cookie. I said, you know, it's just a cream-filled cookie. So she was asking me about having one, where she could get one. Could we get one at the store? And I'm like, no, it's kind of more a specialty item. You have to find them at certain places. Well, a couple of weeks ago, my Knit Night hosted, my yarn shop had Ann Bud come. And I'm like so not an official knitter because I didn't swoon about Ann Bud coming, and I didn't sign up for her classes, and I didn't buy any of her books. So I guess I'm not an official knitter. I fail knitting school. It was cool. I did see her when I went to Knit Night. I'd totally forgotten that she was coming, and then I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I know who it is, and I know she's this prolific knitwear designer, but I haven't been around the knitting scene long enough to really fully appreciate all that she has done. I'm going to take a sip right quick. Drinking water because it's late in the day. But all that to say, Ann Bud was there, so Amy, the proprietor of the yarn store, brought in these delicious macaroons to have at Knit Night. We always have, you know, some kind of sweets, but these were like, you know, brightly colored and just extra. And she had it all on the table displayed. It was just really nice. For the class, I'm sure, but, you know, it was Knit Night, so we got some too. All that to say, the macaroons. I was really excited to see them because Trella and I were literally just talking about them, and I explained to Amy the story. And she said, well, here, you have to take some for Trella to try, which I thought was too sweet. She didn't have to do that. And Trella, I brought them home to her, and she had them, and she was like, those aren't as good as I thought they would be. I guess she just expected this, like, heavenly moment with her cookie that she just didn't get. But again, all of that to say, that long-winded story, I told Bethany, send me whichever colorway that you choose, but I would love to have any of these three. The colorway that she sent me is macaroon. So that is what it is called, macaroon. And she actually knit a pair of socks with this colorway, and they turned out gorgeous. And I was just coveting this colorway so hard after that. I also really love her golden pineapple colorway, but I find it really fascinating. That's showing up pretty well. It's a soft pink with really awesome shots of hot pink, but then it has this line of cream through the middle, just like a macaroon cookie. Like, how did you do that? That is just too cool. And I'm gonna hoard this for a while, I think. I really, really love it. I want to knit socks with it, probably. I was thinking the vintage Fairy Light socks would be a beautiful pattern for these. But I'm not sure yet. I'm thinking about, you know, just holding it in the stash and coveting it for a while because it is just so beautiful. Obviously, I love pink, so. And then she also sent this mini. She said she sent it for a Trella, which I just thought was too sweet. I had mentioned that my daughter really loved blue and loves this colorway of hers, which is Fox Glacier. Just a really beautiful light blue speckled. I really appreciate the light hand this takes too. And there's like little shots of yellow in there. It's so springtime. And while she did send this for a Trella doesn't really knit that much. And I don't think that she would mind if I held it for heels for this pair of socks. I think that would be too beautiful. Too beautiful. So, yes, little yarn babies. And she also sent some minis. So this one's Madeline Tosh. This one is This Handmade Life. One of a kind. And then she sent 3 that are her hand-dyed yarns. This is Maids a Milkin', Swans a Swimmin', and partridge in a pear tree. So I'm guessing she did like a 12 Days of Christmas. I'm not sure, but that's really cool, and I love those colorways, and I love that you sent me these. This one's really beautiful. It's pink, purple, and flecks of green. It's no surprise that I love it. And then tees like one does, but I had complained on Instagram about my throat hurting, so I thought these were extra special. Throat coat and a chai tea and a sweet note like you do. So thank you so much for swapping with me, Bethany. I am going to covet that yarn for quite a bit, and I'm so excited to have some of it in my stash now. But that is all that I have to share with you guys this week. Thank you so much for joining me. I won't have the girls jump on today because they just haven't made enough progress on the stuff they've been working on, though they did craft quite a bit on spring break. We, spring cleaned too and traveled and did all kinds of stuff. So till next time, I will pop in some videos of our camping trip, so I hope you enjoyed those, and thank you so much for joining me. Please join the Cals if you're interested. Definitely go and sign up for that prize if you want to win the pattern subscription. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.